Welcome to the Inner Alignment Podcast, a neuroscience approach to healing anxiety and depression caused by childhood trauma stored in the body. With the right tools, healing long-term anxiety and depression is completely possible when you heal at root cause. Join me as we expand boundaries in the field of trauma recovery with the revolutionary Inner Alignment System, a 6-layered approach to addressing stored trauma in every layer of the body. Welcome to the Inner Alignment Podcast. I'm your host, Kim Beekman, and today we're going to be talking about yoga psychology and what yoga psychology is and how it relates to the Inner Alignment System. Today I have Misty Lampa with me, who has become such a dear soul sister on this path from my perspective and for so many of us in this community. She's a 500-hour yoga teacher trainer. She's an inner alignment practitioner and soul retrieval healer, and she lives in Minnesota and has 4 children, is just a powerhouse of fire and wisdom and skill and spiritual connection. And I just love working alongside her. So welcome to you, Misty. It's good to have you.
Thank you. What a sweet introduction.
Yeah, so we've been working alongside each other for, I want to say 5 years now. How long has it been?
I know I can never determine time, but yeah, I would say about that.
I think I was teaching
And
a 300-hour yoga teacher training in
yes,
2020, and that was where I met you. It was
yeah,
through that
actually,
work.
yes.
Okay, so you completed your 300-hour, and then you came in to do inner alignment through the Healing Programs organization, right?
Yep. Very soon after that, I think maybe around 6 months after that, actually. So yeah.
Yeah. And so you went through inner alignment level 1, the inner work, you went through the coaching program, the mentorship work, the counseling work, and then went deep into becoming a healing practitioner, a soul retrieval healer. And then we started working alongside each other because there was a lot of, I would say, resonance in our vision of just healing humanity, of the mental and emotional imbalances.
Yep. And I think that's so interesting. I have on my resume, and it doesn't matter who I've sent it to, non-wellness world. I'm like, heal humanity.
Relieve the suffering of humanity in however I can, right?
But it's so funny. I'm like, everybody needs to see this, actually.
It's true. I feel in the healing part of our organization, there's this consciousness that we have stored trauma, stored vibration in the body, and that we can access that alongside rewiring practices to be able to create a new framework within our bodies, a new embodied sense of alignment with our soul. And that's the depth of work that you and I have been working in the healing organization. And now you and I are transitioning back to where it all originated, I think, for both of us, which is the yogic path and yoga teacher trainings.
So yes, it's right back to where it started. And the reason I even got into this, like you said, with the 300-hour, and there was something that you said in the Ayurvedic psychology. I couldn't tell you what it is, but there was something that you said. I was like, oh, I actually need that for myself.
I think everybody needs it for themselves. Like it's a requirement to do this work and to incorporate the inner shifts in this inner system, the level 1 work, before you mentor or help anyone else, because it's an embodied consciousness that gets brought into the world through our own inner work, right? We're continuing to do our inner work and our exploration mentally, emotionally, energetically, spiritually, physically, nervous system, neural synaptic wiring. We keep doing our work, and because of that, we can keep showing up in an embodied state to hold the space for that work for others and to train practitioners to be able to do that.
Yeah, there's no doubt that we keep doing the work. And yeah, I will say, tying it back to yoga, as I went through level 1, 2, and 3, I had continuously been teaching 200-hour teacher training programs. And with every progression forward, I would say, in inner alignment, it kept going deeper. Every teacher training was like, oh, this hits very different. Every bit of the eight-limbed yoga path was like, oh, okay, now I get it more. Okay, now I get it more because of inner alignment and how it was woven into the eight limbs, or how they are just this together.
Yeah, it really was built upon the eight limb path of yoga. But my intention in building inner alignment system was to tease out all of the yogic stuff and really create a mainstream program that anyone could pick up, whether they believe in yoga or not, right? So that it wouldn't create resistance within people's spiritual and religious belief systems as well. So yeah, and to bring it back into the yogic roots feels like a coming home to me, because inner alignment was birthed through my own yogic path and through the systemization. I was just talking to someone who I was very good friends with 15 years ago when I was building all of this, and I was so steeped in bhakti yoga and the yogic traditions. And we were talking about just my gift in this world is creating structure around that which doesn't have structure. So I took the eight limb path and my 30 years of inner work and linearized it in a way that we could take people through very systematically. And that's what inner alignment system is, right? It's like we're working all of the layers of the body, the koshas, we're working the chakras, we're working the doshas, we're working with the tamas of the gunas, right? Take any of the Sanskrit words that you know of
Yeah.
conceptually in yoga, and that's what we were actually very practically applying in inner alignment. And so it's the depth of yoga in a very straightforward and practical and implementable way.
And I think as a yoga teacher, you can really feel that. Like, I would say that is absolutely your gift. And there are probably also plenty of people like me where I work really well once there is a structure, then I feel really free to be in that structure. It gets to like where the first time you're driving somewhere and you're having to really pay attention and you're just like in your mental body, and then the hundredth time you go to that place, you're like, I don't even remember the drive. I was just in the flow. And I
Yeah.
think that's what the inner alignment system has done for me, has been able to, and I think others who are like me who need that structure, is to be able to give me a structure. The first few times, probably a little clunky, guiding people through.
Yeah.
And then it gets to that place where you're just in the flow and it gives you more freedom because it's so in your body.
That's a beautiful description. Learning the structure of the inner alignment system is like wiring your brain and figuring out how to ride a bike, right? It's clunky and you're figuring out, okay, I need to look at this thing and I need to work with this piece. And it's a turnkey 8-week system that you start to embody within yourself and you find your way. But what's beautiful about how you've done it is you took the inner alignment system and you weaved it into how you train yoga teachers. You've
Mhm.
weaved it into your parenting. You've weaved it into how you hold women's circles and community. Once you embodied that structure, it was you. You brought the embodiment of that consciousness to all of the beautiful offerings that you did.
Yeah. And I think that it really is the gift. And I will say that also repeats itself with all of my peers and other people that have gone through the inner alignment system. Like, I can see where they're doing the same thing. You have the structure, but they have been able to take it like me and put their own flavor on it with the content that is so sacred and important to keep that thing, but be able to have Misty's flavor of it or Kim's flavor of it or anyone else who's gone through the system. There's a real freedom with that, really. There is.
That's a great point. Like Laura, who's done this work, is a Reiki master, and she's blended this inner alignment system into her Reiki offering. And so the way that she offers an 8-week program of going in and doing the inner work and doing the spiritual practices and regulating the nervous system and alternating that with doing Reiki sessions is an example of how inner alignment really can weave in. As you were already a yoga teacher, you were already bringing the yogic path out into the world, and then inner alignment was able to weave in. And we've seen massage therapists and astrologers and gosh, so many different types of wisdom and wellness practitioners integrating this system so that they can take their clients a little bit deeper and hold them over 8 weeks so that there can be some level of shift in consciousness through the practices and what's taught over the 8 weeks.
And I will say too, like where I have personally brought it into my work, not in the inner alignment structure, but like you said, in a 200-hour teacher training, once it's in you, you can't not teach parts of it. You just can't not, because it is with the 8 limb path. So if you're doing any sort of yoga, whether it's group classes, one-on-ones, teacher trainings, workshops, it will be part of what you teach. It just will be. It deepens every part of the 8 limb path, I believe, for people that go through it. So it is woven into the 200-hour yoga teacher trainings that I teach, but it's also, I'm bringing it into like retreats that I'm hosting. I'm bringing it into one-off workshops or 3-week workshops that aren't the exact system, but they are, the wisdom is brought in there in parts so that people can, for example, understand like, how does Ayurveda and the chakras go together? And how can we do just that as a workshop and teach people just how to deepen their understanding of the chakras with Ayurveda and how they play together, for example.
Yeah. That kind of gets us into kind of the topics of what is yoga psychology and what is inner alignment system and how do we work with it. And so yoga psychology is the ability to look at someone's doshas, which is the Ayurvedic constitutions, air, earth, fire, right? Vata, pitta, kapha, and the combinations of them. Each of those doshas have a certain energetic, mental, emotional tendency, physical tendency to them. So in our work, we'll just name it like the lion, the bird, and the bear to be able to distinguish and really help people their true essence. There are 7 different combinations of constitutions, and the person's constitution is what we want to bring them back to, but very often life and stress and illness and the American diet and all of that will take someone out of alignment with their nature, or they were raised by someone who had a different nature and therefore were living out of alignment with themselves. So the Ayurvedic doshas are a really big aspect. Ayurvedic psychology is a big aspect of yoga psychology. And from that dosha, we can look at what's the best type of yoga asana? What's the best posture for that dosha? What's the best pranayama breath work for that dosha? What's the best rhythm of the day, of that time of day for that dosha? What's the best sleep rhythm? What's the best self-care technique? What's the best meditation practices? How do you work with the mental body of that dosha? How do you work with the physical body, right? There is so much that we can know when we nail down someone's Ayurvedic dosha. And that's really what being a wellness counselor is. It's how do we get this human being who's suffering and struggling mentally, emotionally, physically, energetically, and spiritually? How do we get them back into alignment using what we know from the yogic path? Because the yogic path is not one size fits all. Pranayama is like prescribing medicine. And if you prescribe the wrong medicine to this Ayurvedic dosha, if you give this pranayam to a lion, it can throw that lion further out of alignment and make them worse off mentally and emotionally. And so I think without that Ayurvedic wisdom, we can do more harm than good in our yoga classes or our one-on-one yoga teaching and counseling. So that's one big piece, is being able to understand someone's psychological makeup from the perspective of the Ayurvedic dosha, and being able to use what we know as the Ayurvedic recommendations in terms of physical postures and daily rhythm, mental and emotional shifts that need to happen, and spiritual tendencies for the dosha as well.
I teach group classes weekly, and I do see the destabilizing part that comes with incorrect breath work for that particular dosha all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. So it is so important. And really, once you learn what is aligned for each person you're working with, it's something that, again, unlocks something for the client.
It's so true. When I used to teach group yoga classes, I would, over the course of months, start to educate people on their doshas with little things that I would say, right? And so it was like through group format, I would give them the sense of the tendencies and build that awareness so that later in the yoga class, I could be like, and if you have kapha constitution, one more sun salutation. And if you have a vata constitution and you feel like you want to keep going, you need grounding, I would say it would be best if you go into shavasana between. So it was an orchestra. I was like, over here more, over here less. And it was really fun to be able to teach dynamically to different doshas in the context of a group. It was complex, but it was really fun. And people started to understand themselves in a new way instead of the one size fits all kind of, I go to this class and I don't know why. I feel better, but I also feel worse in the long term after that class.
And that's a great distinction because somebody may feel okay during, but then they're going to crash later,
They're
or
biting off their kids'
yes, I
heads.
was going to say,
They're yelling at their kids at dinner because they crashed, because they overdid it in this
yeah.
specific type of poses in yoga class. And they don't know that the yoga that's their sanity is actually throwing their physical and energetic layers of the body out of balance. Isn't that fascinating? So that's the dosha piece of yoga psychology. And I would say the more subtle aspect of yoga psychology is really starting to understand the chakras, not in terms of, oh, I need to strengthen my root chakra, so I'm going to wear red. People come out of a 200-hour yoga teacher training and they kind of know about the chakras and they know what's associated. Oh, this is safety. Okay, I'm not grounded. They might understand it at a superficial level, but in inner alignment, we understand the chakras in terms of what trauma is stored in that chakra, whether it's weak or whether it's excess imbalanced. We understand what sensations are in the body and how it relates to the chakra. We get the physical aspects, the sensations of the chakra and how it's affecting the organs and the systems in the body. We understand how the mental and emotional tendencies of an imbalance in that chakra affect all the other aspects of that person's lived experience. We understand the energetic imbalances that come with the chakra imbalance and how to bring that back into balance. And so we can hear really where there's a chakra imbalance, and then we know how to work with it on the different koshas, the different layers of the body, the physical, mental, emotional, energetic, pranic awareness, and the spiritual layer of the body. And so understanding the chakras at that level is incredibly profound to live in the awareness of the layers of the body and how they're being expressed with the imbalance of the chakras and what it really means to strengthen a chakra and work within it on every aspect of ourselves.
And I would even say not always strengthen a chakra, but balance it out, right? Because it could be very over abundant,
Maybe like
right?
reel it back a little bit,
Yeah.
right?
And you'll start to see the patterns that play out for each imbalance in each chakra. Oh, for example, I have somebody, not me, but somebody has anxious attachment. Okay, what's happening in the sacral and how is that showing up? Was there an under development or an over imbalance? So we're just looking at each chakra and what patterns play out in those chakras to inform us where our work is with that person or ourselves.
Or the will chakra that's excess imbalanced and the person's being labeled as a narcissist, which they may be acting very narcissistic, but they need to really reel back the energy in the will chakra and build the energy of the heart and the sacral chakras to balance out all of that fire and all of that will. Or someone who's got a really open throat chakra and an open third eye chakra, but their lower chakras are so weak that they can't implement anything in their lives. And so we can help them build the lower chakras very practically so that those dreams that they've been dreaming up can actually get implemented at some point in this lifetime. So working with the chakras can be a very practical state of learning how to transform our everyday life so that we can make tangible, we can meet the goals that our soul was put on this earth to meet, right?
And that's such a gift. And it's I call it living the chakras. You get to live it and embody it and apply it versus just having the knowledge and, like you said, I'm going to have a carnelian stone because I got to work on my sacral.
The crystals. I get rose quartz, and that's good for my heart chakra. That's great and all. But if you have a mental and emotional imbalance as it relates to your heart chakra, that crystal is only going to do so much work for your heart chakra,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so we've talked about the doshas, we've talked about the chakras, and I think the really important piece is the shifting of the consciousness. So in yoga, they talk about the gunas, and it's like these concepts of moving yourself from tamas into rajas and into a more sattvic state of living. And we want to be in this sattvic state, which is connected to the divine and really aligned with our highest consciousness, connected to our heart, and really grounded to the earth. So we're connected above and below, and where that comes, that where that yin and yang meets in the heart is how I would describe the spiritual work on the inner alignment or the yogic psychology perspective. And we do a lot of work with that ability to be able to connect within our heart space, within the sacred heart within us. And that can go beyond anybody's religions. We've worked with atheists and the LDS Mormon community. We've worked with the Christian community and really just the New Age spiritual community. It doesn't matter where someone's spiritual beliefs live, where they reside. The truth is, we all want to be connected within our hearts and within the soul, and the soul's connection to source, whatever that is named for a given person on their spiritual path. So the yogic path, yoga, is union between soul and source. And so if we do any yoga, we want to be sure that we're working with the divine connection and that we're anchoring that into the reality of our day-to-day lives, like practical spirituality. And yoga psychology works with the 8-limb path of yoga, which is how are we simplifying our lives and how are we preserving our prana and how are we expressing ourselves, and what does that look like on the path of going into our spine and working with the energy of the divine light that lives within us so that we can awaken the consciousness of the upper chakras or awaken to the truth of who we are in the greater sense of our consciousness. And to make that more practical on the yogic path, I think is super important because I think we all just want to be connected to our hearts. We want to be connected to source. We want to be connected to the earth. And if we really stay in those spaces of the simplicity of this deep inner connection that we're all craving. We're looking for love in all the wrong places, right? We're looking to our marriage, to our partner to be God, essentially. But we can never get that from our spouse or from our children or from our job. We need to derive that from our inner connection. And I think the yogic path is really about that inner connection. And so that's a big part of yoga psychology is our dharma or our purpose or our connection to our soul and to the divine within ourselves, because the age of the guru outside of ourselves is over. And we can have a whole podcast on that. But the connection to the inner guru is where it's at right now in terms of where the next few thousand years will be leading us. And our work is to not tell someone their truth, but to activate their connection to their own soul truth, because that's the difference between giving someone a fish versus teaching them how to fish. And I really think that's what we strive for in our yoga psychology wellness counseling, in the inner alignment coaches and healers. We strive to help to awaken our clients' inner truth and their connection to their soul, because once that is plugged in or locked in, they're good and they don't actually need us as practitioners after that's been plugged in. I see it as click, plugging ourselves back into source. And I think from a yoga psychology perspective, psychology is the science of the soul. Originally, psychology, the root word psychology, is the study of the soul. Modern psychology made it about the mind, but yoga psychology is about the study of mind, body, and spirit, or the alignment of all of the dimensions of our consciousness or every layer of our bodies, right?
I had a lot of religious trauma, big T trauma growing up. And so I had really gotten away from any religion. And I wouldn't say that I am in a religious space now, but through the inner alignment work, it really is exactly what you said. Nobody was telling me what to believe or what I needed to believe. But because I became so connected to self and to my heart and to source, I found what resonates with me and have been able to just deepen that throughout the years, just deeper and deeper. And I find that with working with clients as well. So we don't need to tell them what to believe or who to believe or anything. It will come as you just deepen that connection to yourself and to whatever's higher than you. So I love this. Somebody else who's a yoga teacher said this recently, and I just love it. She said, instead of calling it our nervous system, why don't we call it our divine system? It is our divine system. It's our connection to all that is. And I really think that as we just deepen into the alignment of, again, the 8 limbs, the inner alignment path, we get ourselves the chakras, Ayurveda, all of it, the spirituality. You're getting yourself so aligned, literally, physically, energetically, emotionally, spiritually, that the wisdom is all there. It's all there. You've heard this 100 times. Everybody's heard this 100 times, but everything you need is within you. And as you just keep deepening the path, for me, and I think why people are here through inner alignment, it becomes available. And it's a science, but it's more than a science, but it is a science also, both.
It is. Yoga, the yogic path is a scientific path. They're just starting to prove the science of yoga now, which is so exciting, right? Like 10, 20 years ago, you say you were in yoga, people thought you were crazy and woo woo, but now it has mainstreamed itself in such a beautiful way. But people are just scratching the surface. They're like at the tip of the iceberg of what yoga is. Like the eightfold path, they've hit the first limb, which is asana. If they're lucky, they've gone beyond posture to the second limb, which is breath work, right? So at best, they've hit 1 or 2 limbs of the 8 limbed
Mhm.
path. But actually studying the 8 limb path and really being able to integrate the yogic sciences so that you can build yourself into a deeper connection to self, the higher self, it is, I think it's what we're all craving. And it's the deeper meaning that we've been looking outside of ourselves for in life. And to be a yoga teacher, even those who are just teaching asana posture, or people who are just doing Reiki, there's a consciousness that gets awakened and opened when you start going to yoga class. And you might be at the most mainstream physical yoga, but it does unlock and open all the layers of the body. So you might be just exercising, but you are opening your consciousness. And so it's beautiful when yoga teachers are trained on all of the limbs in a very practical way, so that as they teach in group format or they start to do one-on-one client work, they're able to deepen each client or each student into the true point of yoga. And I'm not in judgment for just the physical yoga, because I believe it can be a huge awakening agent on someone's path. It can be an activation. And the other aspects of the other limbs of yoga, when practiced, can just blow open your consciousness and bring such meaning and interconnection into life that it's like going to the buffet and only having the Brussels sprouts, which is great, but there's a whole ice cream set to be choosing from. And those are the last 4 limbs of yoga. It's where the juiciness and the bliss is accessed. And who's not searching for bliss, right?
Yeah, how it showed up for me is I can recall just this progression of being on my yoga mat and feeling so good. And then that great feeling would last until I got to the lobby. And then through my asana pranayama practice, I got it to the point where it could last maybe through half a day, which is fantastic. But I got to the point where I was like, I know there's more to this. I know people can sustain feeling connected longer than half their day. I know that's possible. So for me, through the inner alignment work, being able to learn the tools, the embodied tools to sustain that feeling of connection, not always happy, but
It's not about being
connected.
happy, not
Right.
attached to being
It's not a
happy. It's
high.
about really having a deep state of inner peace and inner
Yes.
connection that is not dependent on something happening or not happening in the world outside of us.
Getting your workout in or getting your yoga class in. And that was really the shift for me, was like, okay, this helped me to sustain connection through all the waves, sustain connection and be able to be and be with everything that was coming into my life. That's been the biggest transformation. So the progression for me was that feeling on the mat of, oh, I feel something, because I didn't feel anything for a long time in my life. And then going from feeling something on the mat to, again, not sustaining that. And then the progression of being able to sustain feeling and connection longer and longer. I was not able to teach group classes right away in the way of bringing the inner alignment to my group classes, but I was able to do it with clients, and then practicing and practicing with myself and with clients am now, for quite a few years, have been able to bring that full circle back into teaching group yoga. And like you said, being able to speak to the kaphas in the room and the pittas in the room and the vatas in the room, and how each person can tailor their group practice to what they need based on what's showing up in the moment. So that, I feel like, was just full circle of being able to teach myself and then teach others how to sustain connection to self, connection to their heart, connection to what is.
It's so beautiful because you get fed as you're in service to the clients. You start to build this whole repository of understanding of just how the world works and how the human consciousness works and what the mind body cluster mess can be, and how beautiful it is as we unravel that tangled ball of yarn and start to pull out the pieces that are creating imbalance for each type of constitution, for each type of chakra imbalance. It's really such a gift to be in service and to do that. It feels, I know for you as well, it feels like an honor to be able to provide that to people and to watch their whole mindset shift in their relationship to themselves. I have a spiritual teacher that says compassion is understanding plus love. And I think yoga psychology brings in a depth of self-understanding that I've never seen before. You can study Enneagram, you can study human design, you can study Myers-Briggs, but yoga psychology puts together a framework. It allows you to see what is and accept it in a way that you're not in resistance to yourself anymore. And to be able to do that is a loving act. And together, it's just a very compassionate thing to do. Even though I'm not an incredibly compassionate person, like the understanding and the love that I can bring, it feels like it's a very compassionate way to live in the world. And I say I'm not very compassionate because I'm fiery and I'm a lion and like I'm committed to truth. I have an edge to me, but even with that type of constitution, the way compassion feels is by bringing truth to light and celebrating it, and like really grabbing it and being like, yeah, this is who I am. And when someone can do that, they stop punishing themselves, they stop judging themselves, they stop feeling unworthy, they stop being in resistance to themselves. And that's how you get your prana back and stop creating resistance within ourselves. And that's like a gift unto itself.
Yeah. And I would say you're an extremely compassionate person. Your flavor of it may not look like the mainstream compassion, what we see as compassion. And I think you know that, but that's like, you're not all love and light. You're a whole
I'm
lot of
not a love and
truth,
lighter.
truth and love, which to
Yeah.
me is so much more compassionate. Yeah, anyways, I love
Yeah,
your
and I
flavor
think
of
that's the
compassion.
piece of yoga psychology is to claim that your nature and
Yeah.
then to be the brightest version of that and to just stop apologizing and to
Yeah.
stop squishing yourself down into a state of smallness or assuming, oh, I don't look I don't look like I'm enlightened, and therefore I need to act enlightened. And that takes us out of authenticity. My friend Daniela Hess Grant says, she talks about authenticity and showed me this research study of like how authenticity is the highest frequency. And we could say love is the highest frequency, but being the truest version of ourselves is the highest frequency we can be. That's what we're trying to instill through the Yoga Psychology Wellness Counselor program. And we can shift into talking that a little bit. We have this program it's Yoga Psychology Wellness Counselor, but it's also a 300-hour Yoga Alliance certification. I brought level 1 and level 2 from the healing programs. It's curriculum that is like just amazing, systematized consciousness and awakening and transformation curriculum. And what we've done is we've coupled that with spiritual studies and deep dives into modern psychology. We're looking at the work that Richard Schwartz is doing with parts work. We're looking at Gabor Mate's work. We're looking at Byron Katie and Peter Levine's work and polyvagal theory. So we're taking all that modern psychology has given us, which is really starting to get the deeper aspects of consciousness and body-based consciousness. And we're building that alongside the yoga eightfold path that's been around for thousands of years. And we're building wellness counselors who can practically bring these concepts into their wellness counseling alongside whatever else they're doing. Right now, we have a lot of therapists who want a systematized approach to being able to build a deeper spiritual, more meaningful practice in their clients, because I think therapists alone know that the limitations of just working with the mental body, and how when you bring in the nervous system and spiritual consciousness and start to work with body-based somatic practices, you're able to make a much deeper impact in your clients.
You can come in and learn this. I always call it the tool belt, your tool belt of healing. And so you're like, oh yeah, we'll take that tool. Oh, this job calls for that tool. This job calls for that tool. And learning the tools that the yoga psychology offers is going to give you just a huge array of things that you can choose from when you're working with clients to see what they need, and then teach them how to do that themselves so that you're empowering them. I remember, I don't know if you said this or if this just is in my mind, but we don't want repeat clients. We don't want the clients that are going to be lifers, because ideally this is embodied. So you're learning how to do it yourself. And doesn't mean you don't ever need somebody to connect with or to help you work through something. But if you are learning this, it's within you. All the tools are now within you, and you can just pull those out. There's
and
really
that's a
no
measure
words
of
for
our
how it
success, is whether we can build
Yeah.
someone in to be able to self-sustain their own inner work. That's our measure of whether we did effective work with them, right?
Yeah.
I had someone who looked at the curriculum. They're like, wait, you're doing all of this within the context of a YTT? We're putting so much into a 300-hour so that we can build this work. Usually this is built through apprenticeship. People learn this over a very long time. And what we're doing is we're making this curriculum more available to really practitioners and people who have been on their path, so that they can start to hold peer facilitated psychological space and spiritual space for people. There needs to be an augmentation to talk therapy. And that's what we're doing, is we're equipping our wellness counselors, our inner alignment coaches, our inner alignment healers. We're equipping people to be able to peer facilitate the shift in consciousness that's needed in order to build wellness practices to be able to manage the anxiety, the sadness, the depression, the stress levels that are at record high levels in society. It cannot just be the clinical therapist, because you can't even get in to see a clinical therapist. And so I think it's cool if someone can walk into a YMCA yoga class and get access to wellness tools that will build them into a place of self-care that helps them elevate elevate their consciousness. That's my dream. That's my vision in bringing this deeper into yoga teacher trainings and to train wellness counselors. Here's your self-care regimen that is adaptable to you. And then here, go share this with the world because everybody needs this.
And I will add to that and say so many of the clients that I've worked with personally have had therapy alongside of this work. And the therapist's response has been, "This is so great. I'm so glad you have this." It's helped their therapy sessions go deeper. And the therapist has been all for doing this alongside, and vice versa. We have been like, "Don't quit your therapist, keep going. This isn't
We
therapy. This is
honor
something
therapy.
different."
Therapy is where the awareness layer of the body and the ability to be able to look at our patterns and our processes, that level of processing is still really beautiful. It may not hit the embodied, the somatic work that needs to get done, but it is such a beautiful support that is given. It's just not a complete system to be able to move someone through, especially if it's been many years without the transformation.
Moving through the patterns. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, Misty, for first of all, for the work that you do in the world. The third organization we have, so we have the healing organization, we have the yoga school, but the third organization is the Inner Alignment Foundation, which grants scholarships for people to go through the trauma work that we offer through the healing organization. And you've really offered so much to the nonprofit in terms of your support and really taking those scholarship clients through our work as well. And I feel like there are just so many ways to access inner alignment and to become a practitioner to be able to bring this out into the world.
I wanted to add, I forgot this, but you had said, somebody had said, "I can't believe you're offering all this in a 300-hour." I think every single one of us who's part of the teacher team are like, "How this is incredible. I cannot believe how much is in here for this 300-hour." It is, to me, by far the most rich program I've ever seen in a 300-hour, ever.
Yeah,
I couldn't,
mean,
when I saw the curriculum, when you sent it over, I was like, literally, I sat there for 5 minutes. I was like, "This can't be real. This is amazing." And every single other person who's working with us said the same thing. Rose and Laura, they're like, "What?"
yeah.
Yeah, so
This
it's
feels
incredible.
like it's a sacred privilege to offer it, but it also is going to attract people who are really deep in their path and get that there needs to be a more systematized approach to mental and emotional well-being. So yeah, it is chock full of important content that can be immediately applied, practically and immediately applied. So I can't wait to kick it off. And people always ask me, when are you running the next one? It's jump in now, because the way that Kim Beekman works is I create something, I systematize it, and then I move into the next thing that I'm creating and systematizing. Yeah, it's an incredible opportunity, and I can't wait to see the group of souls that it attracts, because I know it's going to be a rich communal co-creation.
Yeah, and I feel so privileged to just be working with this team of instructors and whomever decides to jump on board. You always know the right people are going to show up, and I couldn't be more excited about this work.
Me too. So if you guys are interested, you can click the link to a 15-minute training that goes through why yoga psychology and why the layers of the body. It'll just be 15 minutes. And about 5 minutes into that video, you can access a call with me. And on that call, we'll decide whether it's a good fit. We do listen for what people's intentions are and whether they've done the preliminary kind of inner work, whatever that was for that specific person. And then we run it in small cohorts so that it is a really intimate experience. So just click into the video and book a call. That's the next step if you feel inspired and called to be a part of it. Thank you, Misty. Thank you, everybody. Namaste. Many blessings. Thanks for tuning in to today's Inner Alignment podcast. If you're ready to dive deeper into your anxiety or depression healing process, learn more about our 2-month Inner Alignment healing program. The healing program addresses trauma on all 6 layers of the body. and the program has been successful for over 400 participants. If you're feeling ready to join the community of healers who provide this sacred and profound healing work in the world, maybe it's time to become an inner alignment practitioner. If you think this is your dharma or your life purpose, be in touch. Find out more at KimberlyBeekman.com.